Hello, everybody. Hope all of you guys are doing well. I'm doing well, just so you know. Today, we're here with Christian. Thank you so much for being on and you squeeze the time in between your classes. So I'm very thankful for that. We'll have your introduction as a beginning, and then we'll be talking more later.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Christian. I'm a grade 1 homeroom teacher at an international school, at this international school campus. It's north of Hamburg. I'm not originally from Hamburg. I've been living here it's my 5th year now, and I worked at different schools before. One international school in Switzerland, 3 years in Vietnam, and yeah, so I always had an international exposure to teaching and education, if you will. And all the schools I worked at, they've always been, at the beginning of their journey. So which I find makes my experiences kind of unique, because I'm actually not used to work in like established school, which is kind of weird sometimes if you talk to educators who have been working in schools that have been running for like decades, and with super old, not as in a negative way, but like very organized processes and stuff like this. So there's always like this kind of entrepreneurial side to it, and flexibility. So yeah, and originally it was never my goal to be a teacher, to be honest. And I think the reason is of course I could only speak from my own experiences, being a student in class, right? So, and I had the feeling that teaching is this, kind of not necessarily boring, but lecturing thing where you have to take care of lots of kids who don't even really want to be there. And I also especially during my days in college, I started kind of doubt several things in the educational system in terms of where's the personal development part, where are things that I feel are relevant to me personally as my learning, and lots of things I learned later on in my life, of how setting goals, of how to know what I want for myself, of the social emotion aspect, how to master my emotions, or how to work with this, basically. That was really not there. So I was always looking for complementary things to add to my education. So then I became part of an international student organization called ISAC, and they are everywhere in the world, and they encourage other students to go overseas for a volunteer program or for an internship. And this is where I got in touch with wider perspectives on life, and I attended some of their trainings and facilitations they do, and I was very excited about that, because this training or facilitation or coaching approach, that was so totally different from what I knew. So after graduation, but the best next route that was available to my knowledge at the time was teaching. But I wanted to go for not the standard route. So originally I applied for an internship at an international school. I was very impressed with how it looks like, because environment matters a lot. Yeah, we walk in lots of school buildings, and they look a little bit like a prison sometimes. So you walk in and this is an institution, and just getting familiarized with some more innovative approaches to teaching and learning. So and now I'm here many years later, and still doing that, and still figuring things out, not really going the straightforward route, but it's exciting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So let's start from the beginning. How was your own early educational experience?
That's a very good question. I think it depends on the time or basically my age. I remember when I was in primary school, I enjoyed primary school pretty much, actually. The things I remember the most were actually not so much what happened in the lesson, but how teachers make me feel. This is something you really don't forget. It's something, and that already rings a bell. So if you can't remember all the content necessarily, but you remember how a person make you feel, this is something really to reflect on also when you become a teacher yourself or become an educator. So I don't have an example from primary school, but I have an example from grade 7 where it was math class, and math was always my worst subject, to be honest. Yeah, completely fair. But I tried, and I had a very, very bad grade in my test. And I remember very clearly that my math teacher sat down together with me and appreciated me for having tried hard and worked so hard, and that he felt sorry for having that grade. And I had the feeling that he was trying to understand me, that he was trying to understand I was struggling. And this is what I still remember. So if you ask me, so what I learned in grade 7 in math, I have to pass, sorry. But if you ask me how certain teachers make me feel, that's definitely something. I enjoyed primary school a little bit more. It was like in the village, so most kids knew each other. So and I enjoyed it most of the time. High school was very difficult for me. There was lots of bullying happening, and so I think from grade 7, 8, 9, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I also moved cities a little bit, and it became more interesting for me, like towards grade 11 and 12, where we could also start to choose certain subject areas. So yeah, so that's my experience basically.
Yeah, and I feel like that's amazing. Though I will have to kind of disagree with you on the math thing because I'm a math person. So I am one of those annoying people that likes math. And thanks for telling and mentioning math because I got to do my math work today. So, and
Okay.
honestly, with how you told the experience with the teacher, I believe that a subject is not only what you study, but it's how you study it, who's your guide, who's helping you. A teacher and their way of teaching shapes the subject for you and how you view it for the rest of your life. Do you agree or not?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if I have somebody in the class who radiates that excitement for that area, the excitement is transferred over to me. So that's one thing. I remember specifically one university professor, actually. I actually only picked classes because I know that he would be able to ignite a passion for that area, even though you were not so familiar with it before. That's definitely one thing. Also, it's not also so much about that the person knows everything about the subject area, but has an idea of how this is relevant to life. So that's why I remember like certain projects that we did more in primary school, less so in secondary school, to be honest. Much more of all the deep learning that happened and generating ideas and being excited about coming to that project next day to continue working on it. So there's two things. So you need a person who is excited about doing that, him or herself, and there also needs to be a certain kind of relevance to it. For math, for me, it was difficult to see the relevance immediately. So I think when we calculated like interest rates in grade 7, for me, having earning money or having a bank account or something that was like something far out in the future. So back then now I do see the relevance. Back then I didn't see it immediately. So
yeah, and I understand. The thing with me is when we started doing the interest rates and all those things again, it was before us. So yeah, 6th, 7th grade. I was pretty excited for that because I want to be an entrepreneur. So I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. And I watch a lot of Shark Tank and I watch a lot of these, startup investment shows. So for me, it was like, wow. So that's what Mark Cuban's thinking. So when they say $1 million for 10%, they're, valuing their company on $10 million. Oh my God. For me, it was for me, it was just special. And for me, it was pretty relevant because I grew up watching stuff like that.
That's what really amazes me about you, because I wouldn't know that many 14-year-olds who know Mark Cuban or heard about Mark Cuban. That you're already so. When I was 14, I did different things. I didn't reach out to gazillions of people and do interviews or even have the bravery to do that. So I think when I was what did I do when I was 14? I think playing video games when I went home. So So yeah, that's really amazing. So and that's why I'm so curious about your journey as well. I mean, I heard a little bit on the Tanya Shackley podcast, but yeah, what was like the moment that made you say, okay, I'm gonna reach out to all these people. I want to learn about becoming an entrepreneur. I'm gonna watch all these TED Talks. So how did it come to that?
Well, my journey actually started with stand-up comedy. That's pretty interesting. And that happened after I had a realization in my brother's cancer journey. He's a survivor.
Oh.
But that's how I realized, we don't really know how much time we have left, because life doesn't come with guarantees. And I'm like, whatever I'm gonna do, because I was pretty scared, and I was like, I don't know even if I'm gonna be alive until I'm 18. I don't know if I can wait until I'm 18 to really do, because I was always a very type of person that like, I want to do something, but it was like after 18, after college. So I started doing stuff young. I started meeting a lot of people, and I got a suggestion of connecting from people around the world and interviewing them, because the person, my mentor and my guru, basically saw a natural networker in me. I had nothing better to do. I had a lot of time on my hands, and I started doing it. And from one interview to now more than 500 sessions, I feel like it's been a long way. It's been almost 2 years. It's going to be 2 years in January.
2 years of 500 interviews. I mean, you could. I'm not sure how your first interview went, but when I'm talking to you, I'm very amazed about your confidence, yeah, and your spirit that you radiate. So it's like 500 interviews. So so do you have like one that is like most memorable to you?
My interview with the Dalai Lama was just special to me, because my dad has been a big big meditation yoga person, and really influenced by the spiritual leaders. And the 14th Dalai Lama is somebody that's huge, right? And so I basically grew up seeing interviews or conferences with him in it. So I grew up seeing that on TV. I mean, I was very different with my entertainment since I was a child. And I read his Time magazine when he was featured in 2017, 18. And when I got a chance, when the organization, One Better Word Collective, asked me if I'd want to be part of the event and asked His Holiness a question, I was like, what? So it was like my fangirl moment, honestly.
Wow. So I, of course, like I'm very sure many people asked you that question before. So, but what kind of person is the Dalai Lama? How can you describe him?
Well, I'd say one thing for sure, he is a very kind person. Like, he was talking to me. I was actually the youngest at the event, so I was 13. And he talked to me, and I still remember when I introduced myself, he was like, good. And I actually keep that clip in my phone, like at all times. And he's very kind. He is very understanding of different things that are going around the world that for him is disturbing, because he is really just an advocate for peace. So he gets his ideas passed in a very peaceful, in a very calm manner, which I feel like I really like. And I love the fact that he uses easy vocabulary, because any person that I've met that is of, I wouldn't say just like a certain age, but is known, they use such vocabulary, I've got to Google everything. So it was an amazing experience with him. And yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned TED Talks, because I gave my TEDx 4 days ago, my first ever TEDx.
Wow.
And I basically grew up watching TEDx. Like, the first memory that I have of watching TEDx is probably when I was two and a half, 3.
2.5.
Yeah, I have videos of me pretending to give a TED Talk.
Wow. So when I so you can see like the connection there, yeah. So
yeah,
you're a stand-up comedian, TEDx speaker. So like from a very young age, you already had this like, performance or like the willingness to perform
Yeah, I
or
was a
to
very big
or to express yourself.
kid, like on hosting events in school and
Mm.
speeches and debates, and a very big on theater. Then I started doing theater professionally. Now because of COVID
Cool.
again, we can't really do it. But I did a lot of theater. I actually traveled around the country talking about child abuse and children's rights through puppet plays and theater plays.
Mm.
So I did that. I did that
Wow.
in charity schools around the country, and I feel like that was probably the most satisfaction I've ever gotten from my work. Because when I saw the kids and I was telling them about child abuse through a puppet play, and then later on we were doing a theater play about children's rights, just for them to know their rights, I feel like that was pure satisfaction, because I felt that I'm making an impact in these children's rights. So yeah.
That's really beautiful. Yeah, and I mean, you're from Pakistan, right? And I was thinking the other day that knowing that I'm going to talk to you is, I have the feeling we do not know that much about Pakistan. Or I realized I don't know that much about Pakistan, to be honest, apart from what comes to the news once in a while. So that Pakistan is great at cricket, or about like terror attacks. So it's always so that's like, I feel, the only glimpse of Pakistan that we sometimes get, and most of the time when something bad happens. And that's why I'm curious to talk to you, because I'm very sure it's more complex than that. Or so I'm actually not sure to what question I'm going to right now, because I would have so many questions right now. So but maybe something I would be most curious about is, what does a usual, if you can say this, the life of a girl growing up in Pakistan looks like, basically? Is that, can you generalize that, or is that, does it
I
depend,
think
or is it...
I may be able to draw a picture. Now the thing with me is I'm part of the 1% of Pakistan, like part of the, I mean, not bragging here, but the top 1%. Like I've grown up in a nice independent house in a nice gated community with drivers and helpers all around me. So for me, my life has been very different. I've moved around Pakistan like a lot. So my life cannot be an example saying that that's every girl's life here, right? First of all, it's education. Girls don't get education here. Now we see that more and more people are going towards the idea of, yes, it is important to educate girls, because the idea here is, and child marriages are very common. The girls of a certain age, 16, 18, or now it's getting more common to be like, yeah, she's 21 or she's 22 or older, and she gets married. Marriage is the main event that her life surrounds around, which I feel like is pretty stupid, because that's not, I would never say my life surrounds around marriage, or about that one person in my life. No, right? I'm an individual. I have goals. I have aspirations, but I only have that if I have education, and if I have exposure, and if I have explored. Otherwise, I do not have any goals or aspirations, and I have any goals that my parents have. Correct? Right now, what I know is girls, yes, there are girls that go to public school, but again, life surrounds around that one event, which I feel like it shouldn't. Now, what I want to do here is that I want to help these young girls and boys, same, to find their passion. That's what literally my TED Talk is all about, and my journey. Because I feel like it's important. It's creepy to say that life has no guarantees, but honestly, it doesn't. And when you are 18, when you are going to college, when you are of a certain age, would it kill you if you have like a little bit of a revenue stream or a little bit on your resume, so that you can not only get into better colleges, but you have a much good time finding opportunities for yourself in whatever area and you only know that area if you have explored and if you have exposed yourself to different professions and cultures.
That's a huge thing, and it's it's really great that you're doing that, like for your community there, and I'm really hoping, and I'm sure that it will help many girls to at least have this little bit of reflection. So in terms of, okay, what I've been taught, what I grew up with, is that the only way of living, or might there be something else? This is what I could picture. What do you think is the biggest challenge then to like, say you have your performances, you do your speeches, you go around the country and talk to lots of different girls about that. What do you think would to as a maybe the next step to move from, okay, there's this broader awareness first amongst many girls that there's something more than just getting married, but actually that the maybe the bravery or the willingness to take the risk, or maybe even the support from society that girls can have that chance.
I feel like there's a lot of challenges that come our way, but I feel like changing mindsets doesn't happen in a snap. It takes time. But when I started out, I'm not gonna lie, people had a lot of different things to say about that. And if back then my parents had valued the people's opinions, I would never be here talking to you. My parents learned to ignore those opinions, and it's hard. Trust me, it's hard, right? But when parents understand that it's their daughter's future that depends on it, and the fact, I'm not saying that marriage is bad. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that having, I don't know, feminine aspirations or something like that is bad. It's cool. It's fine. What I'm trying to say is to make yourself such independent that, because life doesn't come with guarantees, you never know what's going to happen. Let that, I don't want that realization to come in any girl's life with a wake-up call. When you have no other choice but to work, when you have no other choice but to do something for your family, let that be there from the start. So for you, it is not a total change, right? So it's something that's always there. And the challenge is the mindset of a girl cannot contribute to the society. But what we do not realize is because of a woman, we're here, right?
Yeah.
They have the biggest contribution in society. And you know why? Because everybody, girls, boys, all children, they're raised by women. Fathers have contributions, but let's all agree that it's women. So if our women are educated, so are our children going to be more goal-oriented. So our children going to be more aware of what's going on around them.
So that also, so what you basically mean that, when you are a mother, but you are let's say, I'm not sure what the best description is, like an awakened mother or awakened caretaker, that you are able to support your child much better also on the way to discover his or her own passions.
That's true. But like my grandma, my dad's mom, she had never gone to school, because her dad and her granddad, they thought that why send her to school? Why waste the money? Because she's just going to get married to somebody. She got married at 17 and she had my dad and my uncles and my aunts. She forced them to go to school. She should drop all of them one by one to their different schools and leave them in class and make them be there. She did not go to school herself. But all her children's, one of my uncle has a PhD. All of theirs are at very nice positions around the world. My aunt's an architect in Australia. My dad's an air traffic controller. So all of them ended up at nice places, which led to me and my cousins being at a nice, comfortable place in life, just because of that one woman and a man that they could have enjoyed their life. but they were more into quality education for their children, more exposure for them, taking them out to places, traveling with them. Why? Just so that they could have more exposures, just so that they'd be able to make smart choices in life. So this is awakened women. And I give this example because education isn't the only thing. Awakening and enlightenment is also important.
So what I'm also wondering about this is, okay, talking to the girls about that is one thing, but so what about like the male part of the population who you also see this mindset, okay, or has like a very like say narrow or like a clear, distinct definition of what the role of a woman is in the society. I'm wondering about that challenge as well, just change mindsets on that end. Because to be fair,
it's it's not, of course, it's not easy to do because these mindsets have gone on for ages. Let's be honest. And they're not easy. They're not going to change in a snap, just like that. It's going to take time, but I don't see that as far away that this awakening happens in a lot of men in our country. I mean, I feel like in life, being black and white is not a solution. There's a lot of gray areas, but just being black or white and just be like have a very solid definition of what a role for woman is not the right thing to do, especially if it is to a woman's job is to stay at home, clean the home, and have babies and take care of them. That's not the only thing that a woman does. It's like what's not realized. But the men around me, I've been very lucky to have nice, sensible people around me that believe that I can contribute. And when my parents they're like very empowering, because even when they're having like their own like conversations about our family's future, they bring me in because they think I'm grown up. They think I have a perspective. Now, again, my brother's 6-year-old, so he would rather talk about Transformers than anything else. So the point is, I feel like giving importance to the voice, which I really want to talk about here is, and I was talking about this to you earlier and just came up in my mind. You teach children, you teach young children. Do you not feel if a voice from a young age is sort of like suppressed, is sort of like shushed down, that it never is able to be heard and people don't speak up if they are shushed down from a young age?
That's a very good and very important question, because I'm just trying to find a good way to start there, because kids at that age, they're very moldable. They look up to adults. They observe very closely what adults are doing and they imitate that very quickly. So whatever sinks into the mindset from very early on, that that can be very shaping. So I always find myself in a situation where I try to be very cautious about how I show up as a teacher to not to suppress these kind of voices, while still making the distinction. Okay, so what you're doing right now, you're messing about. That's all okay. You can't do that. While still appreciating that. Okay, this is a child. It's a child is evolving. I can't put a label on the child right now, because the child is changing, especially at that age, changing so much every month. Changing a lot. So if we start to put labels on it, from the very early beginning of like who you are and who you are not, that's something we really have to be aware of. So I'm always trying to observe very closely what the kids are doing, what they're trying to tell me, what other perspectives they bring in, because all the limitations we have as adults and starting from teenagers as well, they do not have these limitations. Kids don't see the world as, okay, this is the only way it works. They make up their own mind a lot, and it's very important to have an ear for that, and because there's so much inner wisdom in little kids, and when you learn to listen to that, there's a lot of great things to be gained. And sometimes I guess we underestimate kids of what they're capable of. Of course, they're still little. They're still figuring things out. And when kids like act out or like quote unquote misbehave, is often most of the time they're trying to figure things out. So when kids throw a tantrum, reflect on yourself. Do you never throw a tantrum? Do you never get insane? You never get mad? But we expect our kids to be this little perfect box minions who listen all the time and do exactly what we want to do at every point. And then we feel like we need to be in control. And then when a child doesn't follow the way we expect the child to be, like in terms of conformity, then our own world gets attacked, our own world gets threatened, and borders gets delimited. So it requires really lots of, and it's hard because as a teacher myself, I have to let go of a lot of the little control freak inside of me, and really sense the situations where I give more space to kids to really allow to really be themselves and to really appreciate them as they are, and get away from labels like good or bad child. If you ask people like, what is a good child? Most people probably say, yes, the child who's always quiet, always behaves, the child is always nice. But I realized those childs who are a little bit more challenging, they actually teach you a lot. From my experience, kids who are a little bit more challenging, a little bit more daring, a little bit more daunting. There's lots of creativity because that's the school bell, very old school. And because kids who challenge you possibly have the potential to also challenge conventional ways of thinking later on in life. So it's not something, so if you see that, it's not something that you should ever suppress. You need to be kind of a guide in order to make how a child can make use of their skills. So it goes in a way it's beneficial for the child and beneficial for others, and not detrimental. But you really need to take care that you don't suppress that, because if you want to suppress that and force everybody to be in the very exact same box of conformity, it's very likely it's going to be damaging for the child, because then later on in life, the child has a lot of work to do to find him or herself, or to stay in his or her own truth, if you will. And I can just picture right now how many people who are adults now are out there who have this, innate skill, innate talent, or innate desire to do something or change something, but who don't do that because they were shushed down. And I don't think it's, it would be easy now to just blame parents or blame teachers, because parents and teachers often didn't know any better. They're the same product, they're the product of the same system. As you said, that things that have been going on for ages. And I've been reading a very interesting book recently by Kumar Shah, which is called Raise Your Hand. It's about consciousness and education. Maybe I'm very sure you came across it as well. And it's really great to discover more. And for me, it's also lots of unlearning. Yeah, for me, it's lots of unlearning as well. And it's difficult it's very hard, especially when when not many people are doing that. So I think until I would say like half a year ago, I was very convinced that when I have a group of, like, say, first graders, and I get into classroom, that everybody has to be mouth closed and be super quiet. And now I feel like, okay, of course they shouldn't be messing about. They need to respect their environment. They need to be safe. That's important. However, when I walk through the hallway together with a colleague or a friend, are we keeping our mouth closed? Are we keeping our mouth shut? I have a conversation. So, and if it's not hurting anybody, and if we don't transgress anybody's boundaries, then it shouldn't be a big deal. And then it's also liberating for you, because the more you can get rid of, things that you think need to be in control, the more free you feel as a teacher as well in the classroom. And then kind of the energies align. So it's really hard work. It's really hard work, and it's not always working for me. I sometimes divert back to my old patterns. Yeah. Old patterns, for example. So I give you 3 reminders, and now you are on whatever discipline system you have, like yellow on the traffic light or red on the traffic light. But it's important then to observe, okay, what just happened? Why did I respond in that way? and also to follow up with the child and realize, okay, where's the stressor come from? What was the trigger, and how can I maybe either make a change so that trigger doesn't happen, or respond differently to it? So yeah, that's very important. So
Yeah, amazing.
thank you for that question. I could carry on for that like that for hours. That was a
And
very
I
good
understand,
question.
because it's a very important question, honestly. And I love the fact that you mentioned Komal Shah's book, Raise Your Hand, because Komal's a very close friend, and I interviewed her a year
Nice.
ago, and she actually mentioned our interview. So yeah, shout out to Komal. We love you. And
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like having children around you is a blessing, and then getting to play and play a part or contribute in their life is amazing, because very often parents get offended on this, but I feel like having children is like having a minion. It's cute. It's awesome. It's like having like a baby human and then getting to raise them into a grown person. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Christian, for being on. It was an awesome conversation with you, and I look forward to more, because I feel like we really connect and have similar passion. So any last words that you'd like to say to the audience?
Any last words? Really, thank you for listening. The first time you're talking to like a audience, your potential audience, but try to show up as your best self. Try to be conscious about what's stirring you up, and I'm not sure if people expect something super awesome, inspirational, because I don't have that right now. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to many more of those conversations, and it's really so important to bring more consciousness into education and to challenge the system, and also always when you're a teacher, always question and your practice and reflect on your practice, whether it's actually beneficial for the child, or if it's just something that you that was societal informed, but maybe doesn't work anymore. Maybe that might be like the first start to being more aware. And it's hard. It's hard. I don't doubt that. But every change is hard at first, and we need to start somewhere. Yeah. So like you start, in Pakistan doing all this work. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Christian, for being on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day.